Hello everyone! Welcome to Women Who Code. Also official up here. We don't usually have this. I'm Holly Gibson. I'm the director of Women Who Code Austin. We're not so new, but new for other meetups, I guess. But we're a year and a half old. And we started with just about 10 people, and now we have over 950, so it's really cool that we're growing so fast. Women Who Code is an international nonprofit. We're in 60 cities around the world, 16 countries. We have over 20,000 members. And we exist to help women who want to get into coding, who have a career shift that they'd like to do, or who are already in the technical industry and want to keep working on their skills and meet other women who are in the industry, because as you all know, we are a minority, so we gotta find each other and stick together. So tonight we're gonna have some lightning talks. There's 4 people signed up. We're gonna have a talk on Blue Mix with IBM. Kay's gonna give that. Then I'm gonna give a talk about should you go to a coding boot camp? I'm a boot camp grad, so I'm hoping you all have lots of questions, because I was sick this weekend, so I have nothing prepared. And then Sada is going to give a talk on LinkedIn. She's also one of our leadership team. She does all of our tweeting. So if you see all the wonderful stuff on Twitter, that's all Sada. She's amazing. And then Trish in the back is going to give a talk on troubleshooting. And she's also a bootcamp grad, so she's going to give you a fresh perspective of what it's like to get right into code and debug when you're a newbie. So those are the talks. And we'll have a break afterwards, plenty of food and drinks, and time to meet all each other and learn all the amazing things that each of you do. So first I'm going to call up Jarrell from Athena Health. They're our sponsor. Thank you for the food. Are you all new to Austin or new to the downtown Seaholm area? Because you guys have your cool building by Trader Joe's.
Yes, we do. I'm not brand new. The first couple of years that Athena was in Austin, it was in my house. My husband and I both worked for Athena, so Athena Cedar Park was Athena Austin. We slowly grew into larger and larger office spaces, and now we've moved into the Seaholm Power Plant and have all 4 floors there. 110,000 square feet, which is way too much for the 80 of us that we have today, but we hope to grow into it over the next 10 years. It'll take us about 10 years to get that many people excuse me, hired and onboarded given the current plan. But Athena Health is a web-based software as a service model. We make products for doctors, and the software, I will be honest, is an ends to a mean. It's a way that we solve problems. We also use data and knowledge curation and services significantly to make the results actually appear. So our business model is a little bit interesting in that we only get paid if our clients get paid, and so we're totally in it with them. It's not like we come in and we sell our product and then run away quickly. No, we're kind of stuck with them, and we have to earn their business back every single day. When I say software as a service for providers, I mean EHR, so we make electronic medical records, we do medical billing, we provide services around care coordination, which is like all the referrals and pre-cert things that you have to do before you go to the hospital. We have a patient portal, and we recently acquired Hippocrates, which is the #1 mobile app in use by doctors. They're like a drug reference tool, so they replace the big books that all the doctors had in their offices before. And personally, my story, I've actually been in Athena for 13 years, which is kind of weird. I mean, my entire career has been in Athena, and yeah, don't do the math, but I graduated with a degree in applied math and computer science, and so I started there as a developer and was a developer for almost 3 years, and found myself getting more and more interested in the business problems. And I still liked working with developers, but I personally enjoyed the application of the technology more than the technology itself. And so I ended up leaving the development group and forming a group that we call the Product Innovators. So we're a combination of product manager, BA, typical requirements gathering and analysis, and project management, and we work really closely with the developers and the UX team. Sneha's going to tell you a little bit about her role in UX, but to deliver the results. So we help pull all the pieces together. We make sure that the solution makes sense. A lot of times we're the subject matter experts, so we're the ones going into the doctor's office and saying, what is this crazy thing that they're doing, or this bug that they're reporting, or hey, they need a new feature. We go in and figure out exactly what that's supposed to mean and how it fits best into our products. So that's me. I'll tell you a little bit about that UX role. I hope you will all take a look at the job descriptions that we brought in and certainly apply or pass them on to a friend. We're hiring crazy. We are going to double the office in a year, so we're hiring developers and PIs and UX people all the time.
I'm Sneha. I'm a UX designer at Athena. I just started in October. The UX team is made up of designers, copy, research, and patient safety because we're a healthcare company and people can actually die if we do things wrong. So before this, I was a UX UI designer at a small HR tech startup where I got really impatient with my developers, so I started doing front-end stuff too. And although I don't do that at Athena, I still find it very useful for communicating with my designers. So if you do apply to Athena and you want to be a developer and you don't want to do design and you've been put in that position before, don't worry, we won't make you do that. But also if you do like design, there's a lot of cross collaboration between PI, UX, and developers, and that's been a lot of fun to work with. Do you guys have questions?
Can you tell us a little bit more about Athena's platform and how you guys integrate with the community and other companies?
Do you want to?
Sure, I will be happy to. So the thing that one of the things that we're known for within the healthcare IT space is our more instructions-based program, which is a essentially a marketplace where Athena supports all kinds of companies integrating with our products, and whether that's a mobile device or a web device or web service, because we know we can't build everything ourselves, and we shouldn't, and also there are things that we wouldn't normally prioritize that maybe need to be made, but like it would never filter to the top of our planning list. And so we work with about 150 partners at this point to integrate their technologies into and with them on top of our products so that it enhances the overall experience. Everybody wins. Normally, almost all of the products that we support enhance the provider's efficiency in some way. But it's a scheduling application, or a billing application, or coding advice, all those rules that they don't want to memorize. Like our partners help provide and augment our products with their products, and it works out. Everybody again wins. One of the fun things about healthcare IT, honestly, is that there's so much good work to be done. It's not sexy. Medical billing, nobody thinks that that's not the hottest thing to do, but there's so much fat to be cut from the system, and so much good work. And for me personally, the reason I'm still there is because this is something that I've enjoyed doing, and the problems have always been different. And anytime that I got bored doing what I was doing, Athena was like, oh, great, well, here, take this one, There's always something really good to do. And anyway, I recommend it. I know it's not something you want to talk about at parties, but if you have a sense of a social mission and want to have the work product you produce have real world results, I think healthcare is a great place to look.
And how have you felt as being a woman in tech there? Like, are they very supportive of women in tech?
Fantastically supportive. However, we have the same problem that I think a lot of other people do. We can't find enough female developers, honestly. I think we probably made offers to almost all of the developers who actually came in for interviews, but it's just we don't get that many applicants. So definitely understand that you would get preferred treatment from Athena just by virtue of being a female from that sense. And the leadership is very equally mixed. I think there are a lot of strong female leaders in healthcare. It's just not in the development space, honestly. And so we're constantly working to make our group more diverse. We can't come up with interesting solutions to problems if we have everybody, looking and feeling and thinking the same thing.
Do you know what languages Athena works in?
Largely Perl.
Okay.
And Oracle SQL. And I know that's not sexy either, but it was, we've been building on this existing code base for 17 years, and it was the tool for the job at the time. And right now, it'd be incredibly disruptive and expensive to recycle it or to rewrite it. We do take advantage of emerging technologies as they make sense practically. It is not worth putting our entire client base at risk just because we want to use the new hotness. I'll also say that many of the people who come to work at Athena don't know Perl when they come here. We hire people for their aptitude, their interest, and skill set, and their problem-solving ability, not the languages they know. And that's certainly not, Athena will teach you what you need to know. We don't expect people to know healthcare when they come into the company for the first time. So we have tons of internal training camps and classes to help fill in those knowledge gaps, or even building it up from scratch. Thank you. Any other questions? Thanks, guys. Thanks for having us. And we have swag. in Austin. Absolutely. I'm so sorry. I should have mentioned that. There's a website where you can apply to all the positions. I think all of these, they don't have the actual picture. These are the job descriptions, but athenahealth.com/careers. Apply online. That will get you into the system.
And they have locations outside of Boston as well?
Absolutely. We're headquartered in Boston, actually, and that's our main campus. We also have offices in San Francisco, in Atlanta, and Austin, and Chennai. And we're hiring in all those locations for developers and PIs and UX designers.
Cool.
Are you hiring at all firm level, like all levels, like junior and senior?
Yes.
Here in Austin as well?
Yes. We're not gonna get to 600 in 10 years if we, we will, grow developers. We invest a lot in development people. When we were 10 of us, we hired a little bit more on the senior side, but now that we're at the scale of we are, we can start taking people, with some experience. But yes, across the board, and the same is true for PI and UX.
And is it a good onboarding process?
Yes, we have an internal on-site onboarding process in addition to the very first week that you're at Athena, we send you to this resort that the company, so that's a different story, but we own this resort in Maine, and we send all new hires to Maine that week, no matter what position you're starting in, to learn the company, to learn what it means to be an Athena set. It's not so much about, which department does what, it's more about what are the values that we're trying to espouse? What are the things that should be motivating, hopefully, for all of us? And what can you expect from your boss and from your peers? And it's really to just help you feel like an insider and create that bonding experience. And then when you get back from new hire, then your local team will have, they have different ones, but it has an internal curriculum. Like I said, we have a lot of internal classes that we teach, SQL classes and healthcare 101 classes, and there's a ton of webinars and things that we've built over time, but every team is a little bit different. Our job is to make you successful. We have a very low failure rate and very, very low voluntary attrition. People come to Athena, this is not like a 1 year, 2 year kind of gig. Like, you should come to Athena when you're ready to have a career with the company. And so we invest accordingly. Like, we spend a ton of money getting people comfortable and acquainted with the space and making them feel at home. The culture is also amazing. I dress worse than this on most days, honestly. Jeans and a t-shirt is totally fine. As long as I'm not in front of clients, like, pretty much anything goes. This space, the Sea Home space is amazing. We have lots of toys and lounges, and not as, but we don't have beers on tap. Like, I don't know how many kegs normally.
Well, it's a healthcare company. I don't know if you should
You should check out our LinkedIn. Yeah, it's pretty deeply rooted in having fun, honestly. Like, these are the people that I want to hang out with. My wedding was like half the activities at my wedding were co-workers. And so we definitely try to make people feel like they are included, that we're all working together, and that there's nothing you can't say, honestly, to your manager, to your peers. We're all on the same team. It's not competitive against each other, it's more competitive against yourself. And I think that's one of the greatest things, honestly, about the teams, is that they're so ambitious, but in the same direction.
Cool.
Cool.
Are you expanding other places, or is it just the Austin location that's expanding?
No, we're hiring everywhere in all 5 of the offices. Whether or not we'll open another office, TBD, I think.
So how much do all the different offices communicate with each other, or is it the stuff that's in Austin is just in Austin?
No, not at all. I spend a lot of my day on the phone, honestly. We do it over WebEx meetings or GoTo meetings and conference calls, and we just had a company meeting, we do this every quarter, that was broadcast across all the offices, and each individual office gets together to watch the meeting and their snacks and drinks and whatever, but it's something that Athena knows they have to invest in, so they do so very aggressively, making people have their own culture, but also see where they fit in, to the broader picture, and to be, having those conversations. And also, we all travel a lot. I shouldn't say a lot, but I don't know, I feel like everybody who works remotely outside of the main office probably goes to Watertown maybe once a quarter for a couple of days just to touch base, because those face-to-face conversations are super important too. You don't have to do it every day, but you probably should do it enough so that people get to know you and understand kind of where you fit.
And my other question was, so how big are individual teams there, with the manager and then the people that you're working with?
So the functional teams, the teams that are gonna be assigned to a project together are going to probably be between 5 and 7 people. And it's gonna include some PIs, some developers, and 1 or more UX people. And then usability kind of comes in to consult and play a part. We all report up to different people, so it's not like all the developers and all the product managers report to the same person. We actually all report up directly to the COO. That's to keep things balanced, right? To make sure that the PIs are just telling the developers what to do, and also to make sure the developers don't run away with the technology and hold the PIs hostage. It's to kind of create that equitable relationship. And so it's different every 2 months. We work on 2-month sprints and kind of reassign people and teams based on what needs to be done at that time. So if you don't like what you're working on right now, don't worry. In 8 weeks, there'll be something new.
Sounds amazing. I'll go. So thank you, that's our sponsor.
Again, everyone, that's athenahealth.com/careers.
So next we have Kay. I don't know your last name.
Kay Friend.
Kay Friend. Well,
It's
there you go.
misspelled, but Kay Friend.
Kay Friend. And you're gonna give a talk on Blue Mix.
I am. So as I get my old-fashioned laptop hooked up to this, let me introduce myself. So I've been an IBMer for forever. I call myself affectionately an IBMer and an old comp sci lady. So I took class in high school with programming, and
Do you have a Twitter handle so I can tweet you?
you know what? I certainly do. And if I actually
So
go
everyone
to
can follow you and then try to absorb it through the internet, all your wisdom.
I appreciate my evangelist.
So I was going to do the short introduction, but I'll do my long introduction. So I grew up in the Midwest, went to work for IBM in San Jose, California. I called it paid vacation for 2 years because the first thing they did was send me to a 4-week programming class, and I had just graduated with comp sci, and learned a language that was just a little bit different than a couple of classes I'd taken. We got to go run every day for lunch, and then about half the class was kind of new to programming, and the other half of us were just in heaven. And so I did that for a few years, and then I got married, went tech sales, and I worked in a bunch of different jobs within IBM this is my 32nd year. And the funnest, though, is the product launch space. I spent 10 years as lead technical planner for one of our IBM product lines that we did with a business partner. And it was about $500 million of software business per year. And I was strategy, technical planner, and then there was a whole huge development team in Paris. So my claim to fame is my youngest went over with me to Paris 5 times before he was 1. And just incredible fun. So I think the combination of development and product launches especially, and figuring out the requirements and tweaking, and I like to say we fill potholes. So as a team, figure out what's working well, send everybody fast that way, and then stay ahead of them and just fill the potholes as you can, and tell people, hey, swerve a little bit to the left here, and keep going, or jump over this hurdle, whatever it is. And I think that's great fun, the combination of development and product launch. So I'm on a team now, and my Twitter handle is right here, @KFREUND. And my email ID, kfriend@usIBM.com. And I'm on a team now that is focused on 2 things. The first is we're working with the Austin community, primarily with developers, to help people get going faster on cloud and do it in a way that's really, really secure and can be flexible in terms of integrating with additional applications. So I wasn't planning on using healthcare examples, but as you guys talked about in your introduction, I will talk about a couple things. With me is Kara, who is a new hire with IBM in AIX security, our Unix platform security, and she started the Women Who Compete.
Yeah, Women Who Compute.
Women Who Compete at UT Dallas. So is a leader in her field already.
And I work for IBM too, though I do not know these women at all. But yeah, IBM.
Yeah, we actually have a lot of women in programming and testing, in product launches, in marketing, in a whole bunch of fields. But it's an exciting place to work. So the Bluemix team is a team that's working on our cloud development and deployment, and I'm on a team that's on the ecosystem around that. And then I have another job which is incredibly fun. It was a gift last year when I took a long vacation and came back, and my name was on hackathons. And I said, you know what, you guys, I've had my fun, bring it on. So now I'm leading our North America effort for ecosystem development, for participating in and sponsoring hackathons, which are, in terms of code sprints, go from idea to app in 24 hours, 48 hours, or 36 hours. We just got done with TechCrunch in New York City Sunday, and we did UT Dallas when it was a blizzard in February. They're great fun. So that's the other part of my responsibility. The Bluemix as a technology is the IBM product offering name for our cloud development and cloud deployment environment. And really, it's the idea is very simple, which is speed the amount of time it takes to get started with development, the development process itself, the DevOps process, and probably most importantly, be able to deploy apps really quickly, make changes quickly, and let a lot of the deployment decisions, the installation, the setup be taken care of for you. And then if these apps get deployed onto SoftLayer, an acquisition IBM made in the cloud infrastructure space. So that's kind of a little bit about Bluemix. Somebody was asking about language support. So the languages that we support with Python, with Bluemix as it comes, there's Node.js, JavaScript, Ruby on Rails, and Ruby Sinatra, Python, PHP, Go. There's just runtimes that support those environments if those are the languages you code in. And then there's an ability to build your own, bring a build pack from another language. And this is based on Cloud Foundry. So if it's something that's already on Cloud Foundry, then it's usually comes over pretty quickly. If it's not, then there's usually more work required. But it's flexible with respect to that. And then there's boilerplates. And instead of using the term API, we like the word service. And a service is essentially a set of APIs along with the runtime environment and the deployment specifications set as part of that boilerplate and as part of that service. So what we like to do, if those guys haven't left the room, is we actually like to work with companies that already have apps that are deployed at customers, but where people are wanting to integrate with it. That's one of the areas where Bluemix really thrives, and we have a lot of fun working with teams. I went to a conference, met this company from Calgary, and this VP of development challenged his team in hackathon style to add Watson, which you do through Bluemix, add Watson to their app, and they got done in like 3 hours. And so it was very fun, but just that kind of integration with an existing application, adding new capability, and then of course, it has to go through its product launch cycle, so it has to go through everything else. But at least to get the code in there was a quick run, and then no virtual setup. And those are the boilerplates. They're kind of hard to see. So, but some of them are Watson, Internet of Things, and I'm going to try my Internet of Things demo if I got everything that I have hooked up to the network right. We'll see. And then there's mobile boilerplates and a WordPress boilerplate that I haven't seen anybody play with. So just two quick examples, if I can. One is the Internet of Things, and that's really intended for all kinds of devices, whether they be Pebbles, whether they be phones, smartphones, accelerators, control systems, Arduino boards hooked to things, Raspberry Pis, smoke alarms. There's all kinds of sensors that are now being built into equipment that you want to hook into with applications. And that's the big idea of Internet of Things. And ours has APIs, and then you build that are in the IoT Foundation, and then you build and deploy with Bluemix using the boilerplate. So the first demo I'm going to try is having a phone hook up to then be able to visualize it with an app based on what the phone is doing in terms of acceleration and twisting. And if I go to my website, see if I got in, okay. Whoops, disrupt. Okay, so I think that if I got connected right, I should be able to zap this QR code. Have you guys ever tried it there? Okay, open URL. See if I can get it to go. And while this is connecting, then I can open up the, enter my 4-digit code. While my system is nice and connected. See if I can connect. Okay, connected. And then if it goes, we will see the slideshow mode. So I have to go up there. Okay, so it's still connecting. So while it's connecting, okay, connected. You know what, I don't think it connected right. Still not convinced. So what it is doing is, if it's connected right, but I don't think it's connected right because it's not going. It still says connecting again. So I'm not sure if I got my network set up right. What it works is the accelerometer and the positioning for the cell phone sends data, publishes data up to the app, and then the app essentially visualizes that data on here. And I'm gonna go back to my PowerPoint to show you what the panel looks like on here, and then or actually it's right on this. So the lower right is that panel. So go back here. So it's not gonna change now because I'm not sure that it got connected. So this, oh, that's weird. Oh, wow, that's really fast. So this changes based on the phone changing, and the kinds of applications that's really useful for are detecting a fall, being able to measure when something's going very fast and in which direction it's going. So you can have, like say, a ball or a little car or a device that's hooked up to that, and then with either a smartphone in there or with that, you can take pictures and set events, so it'll take a picture every time or declare where it's at. Another one is based on just simple GPS location of the phone. So when I get close to my door, have another device defined to the IoT that when I get close to my door, then unlock my door that's hooked up to the internet and is instrumented for this. Those kind of applications are really popular for the Internet of Things. And language-wise, this particular app is a Python app, but it can be pretty much anything. And then, actually, before okay, then the second one is probably my favorite hackathon app that has ever been developed. And this was within a week after we announced Watson available through Bluemix. The team that did it, there was a guy that was at this hackathon at Purdue, and one of the teams in the hackathon learned Bluemix, learned Watson in a weekend, learned this custom board that everybody at the hackathon got. This is the Arduino board that was their badge, and learned the badge, the specs that they gave for it, and then basically wrote an app to take a Twitter handle. So this is actually a picture of the team right here. So they started out with a demo of Watson Personality Insights, what it looks like, and then built an app, and then showed it off and won top 5 in their hackathon. So they basically take as input a Twitter handle, and then send that Twitter handle through Bluemix to Watson to decide what the personality is, and then come back and program the Arduino board to light up the number of lights based on that particular person. Great fun, great interaction, and a really quick story to help hackathons. So I asked them if they'd please help me get it installed on my system so I could run it. And then I took it to shows. I've taken it to 4 or 5 shows, and it's very fun because it's just a really quick app. But the great thing about this particular team was they learned all this stuff. They had a cute idea and learned all this technology, got it coded, got it written. They came and asked me what I thought of their personality metrics, and their tagline was, "Why wear your heart on your sleeve when you can wear it on your badge?" And I said, that's great. So they did that. So that's like a couple of the different ideas that people are doing with hackathons. And our goal of sponsoring these is to just help people learn fast. It's a great learning experience, it's competitive, and they usually walk away and they're updating their resume with the projects they worked on, whether they won, what new skills they have, and clearly Bluemix and Watson are 2 really good skills to have in the market. So that's been great fun. And these are a couple of the things that we're doing. And I don't know, how many of you guys are in the WITI organization? Women in Technology International. Ah, interesting. Okay, so what we do is we have physical hackathons. Like there's one this weekend in Austin that we're sponsoring called Angel Hack. And that's, going to a physical place to hack. That's going to be, I'm going to say, anybody's welcome there. Then there's also virtual hackathons, and these 2 are actually virtual hackathons. The first one that we're doing with the Women in Technology WITI organization, this is their first hackathon, and it's a virtual hackathon, so you can basically build a team, and it's open to anybody, although I think the idea is that people will join this WITI organization. And then it goes basically till about the end of May, with big prizes being announced right at the end of May. And the theme of that particular one is, in fact, Internet of Things. And then IEEE, for the engineers in the crowd, if you're in IEEE, and if you're a student member in IEEE, we have another virtual hackathon going on until the end of September. And that's for, idea is hardware and Watson. That a bunch of people do. And then for those people that like to learn at their own pace and don't necessarily like a competitive environment like a hackathon, there's a massive online course that one of the business partners that's headquartered here in Austin, Avnet Academy, they're doing a getinthemix.com and put in the promo code Learn 2015. That has a course that's self-paced that is learning how to develop with Bluemix. And these are the kinds of things that we just kind of do on an ongoing basis. And I brought a couple cards. Kara, can you hold up one of those cards? Yeah. So I brought a couple cards. If you'd like to sign up for Bluemix, there's a free 30-day trial. And then there's a freemium level. And at the end of that trial, you swipe your credit card, and then there's freemium services. And if anybody wants to sign up tonight, we have little, we call them squids. They're these great little chargers, USB, and your choice of Apple or your favorite smart devices. And they're really handy. I use them all the time. So we do that. And if anybody has any questions, would love to discuss with you, later or offline, whichever you'd like. Okay?
Anybody have any questions we could ask? I have one quick question.
Yep.
In the very beginning, you said that you were coding or teaching this idea of extra security. What does that mean? The high security, what does that mean?
So in terms of connectivity to applications with REST APIs and with security that's in IBM middleware that runs within this development environment, a lot of our customers that are starting to use Bluemix are using it primarily because of the security it offers for accessing applications, accessing data, and checking on user authentication. That's the Bluemix side of it. The other thing I mentioned about security is Kara is part of our AIX security development team, and AIX is one of the big offerings that we have for the Unix environment. Anything else? Let me see if this got connected. No, it's still late. It's still okay. Well, thank you. And if anybody wants to sign up I'll put the cards out and then please feel free to.
Alrighty, so let's see, hopefully we don't have any technical difficulties. So I don't know if y'all, I'm assuming y'all all have LinkedIn. So I wanted to talk about like the different ways that you can use LinkedIn to try to get hooked with with a job or kind of meeting people, all that stuff. Oh, actually, I don't even need this. I forgot about that. What? Sorry about that. Ándale. Right. Great.
And to the classroom airplane.
Yeah, I did. It still doesn't. It's like, no, Sara, you don't deserve this.
You do.
Why isn't it working?
It says
Am I
airplane
missing?
should be on.
Yeah, am I missing something? Classroom. There we go. All right, cool. So let's just kind of, there we go. So I'm Sara Inés Calderon, that's my name. I moved to Austin. I was in Austin about 10 years ago, loved it, left it, came back about a year ago. I was doing like digital marketing stuff, and then I found my way into a developer boot camp and was telling Diana and some others desperately looking for a job for several months. And so finally found a job, and so this is my second week as a professional web developer. I'm so excited to have a paycheck. So one thing that I kind of find that a lot of folks aren't really leveraging is, I know it sounds stupid and everybody hates LinkedIn, but you can do a lot of really cool stuff on LinkedIn and find a lot of really neat opportunities. And I find that most people kind of dismiss it, but ultimately I think it's been really useful for me. Outside of having a job, I work with women who code. I organized a Latinos in Tech event last week that brought out some really cool people. So I mean, and those kinds of opportunities build over time, and those are definitely kind of I don't know about y'all, but I mean, all the people I've emailed out of my Gmail account, I don't remember their names, their first names. Sometimes it doesn't pop up. But LinkedIn's kind of like a really easy way to keep track of your professional contacts, firstly. And secondly, it's a really cool way to get noticed by other people. So I think a really good example, what do you mean by that, Sara? So recently, can you guys see that? Okay, let me make it a little bigger. So recently, as per Holly's suggestion, I updated my LinkedIn, with my Women Who Code title or whatever. And I mean, like over 50 people liked that, and I got 2 or 3 messages from that, and I got a couple emails, and then some people that know me on Facebook reached out. And so it's not necessarily that I got another job offer or that something really great came of that, but it's definitely a great way to stay on people's radars, to stay engaged with people who might be relevant to you professionally. And so it kind of that's kind of where I'm going with this. So I guess the first thing that we can talk about is the way that you set it up. So that's better. You guys can see that okay, right? Okay, cool. So the way that I think another good example of this is, prior to having a job, this is my job, I had this title. You can change this title to whatever you want. And so you have to think about it in terms of SEO and in terms of like whatever it is that LinkedIn's algorithm is using to return search results. So in that heading, before I had, fullstack.net web developer. So whatever your skill set is, you want to be sure to try to pump in 2 or 3 keywords in there, because that's obviously probably like a really big touch point for whatever the search results are going to be returning. So a good example of that is this woman, I don't know if you guys, I hope nobody minds I say guys, but I'm from California. But maybe y'all got reached out to by this woman, Lucy Hernandez, with Intel. They had like a big diversity hiring job fair a couple weeks ago. And she sent me a LinkedIn message and she said, hey, I want to invite you to this thing we're having in Austin. I don't know this woman, I've never heard from her before. So clearly she must have found me on LinkedIn. So that's another, kind of thing to think about. So definitely the first thing I would say is, obviously you have to have like a professional photo. I see some people I've seen some bad LinkedIn photos. Yeah, obviously if professional photo is good. These are actual professional photos I had taken a couple of years ago by my friend, a professional photographer. But it doesn't have to be that fancy. We all have cell phones, but make sure you have a nice photo. And then make sure that your title, I don't know what the name is for this, if it's bio or title or whatever, header. Try to it's something like that.
On it, I think it's a headline.
Headline, yeah. There you go, your headline. Make sure your headline is, again, ideally it has a couple keywords in there, but obviously it's descriptive of your job. So that's important. You want to be able to also, I've also worked in media a lot, so SEO is particularly important to me because, if you're a writer, you have a byline. So if someone's going to hire you for a job, they're going to Google your name. So for me, or if you're like an amazing coder and you have this like really prolific GitHub, maybe you want you can customize this URL is what I'm trying to get to. I'm sorry. So when I customized my URL, I had it with my name, because at the time that was something that was most beneficial to me professionally. So let's say if you have a professional GitHub account or, something that you're known for, it would probably behoove you to make that your custom LinkedIn URL because, again, SEO, right? And then again, here's another opportunity for you to bust out some SEO and search terms and whatever it is that LinkedIn's going to use to return you in search results. This is kind of a really, really weird bio that I would never put anywhere else. If you notice, there's almost nothing but verbs in it. And that's because, again, if someone's going to go onto LinkedIn, they're not going to be looking about, I want to find this really cool girl who lives in Austin, who's really good at Twitter. They're going to be looking for, web developer, bilingual, computer programmer, software engineer, .NET, all of those things. So this is another opportunity for you in your little bio or summary to pump in as many SEO words that you can. I mean, obviously this is a little bit awkward. I should probably change it now that I don't need it as much. But if you're looking, this is a really good place for you to kind of inject some good search terms.
Do you think you should use that more for search terms than from, I have nice paragraphs of, of something that a manager would be reading hopefully to hire me, right?
I think it just depends. I mean, you obviously, I was coming from a totally different industry. So I was just like, oh my God, someone find me and pick me. You obviously have a lot more going for you because you've been doing this for a while. It's just different. Obviously, I was just having this conversation with Diana. If we go on to the next thing here, I basically copied this from my current manager, who has a real, I feel like there's a sauce that these resumes have that I don't really know because, again, I come from a different industry. So this really doesn't make any actual sense in the real world, but I think it works just perfectly for what tech is. And so that's another thing that I would recommend to you is whatever it is that you're trying to do, if you're doing UX or if you're trying to be a full stack developer or front end or whatever, go stalk other people on LinkedIn or ask your friends for their resumes or whatever and copy their resumes. Not verbatim, obviously, I'm not suggesting that, but the verbiage, right? Maximize user experience and create consistency across an application portfolio. That doesn't mean anything, but that means I do a work all day, right? But hey, man, it looks really good.
Lots of keywords in there. So.
It looks really good on my LinkedIn. So that's the other thing is I would say if you're particularly looking for something in particular, probably since you have more experience in this field. I personally, now that I'm employed, I'm going to go in here and add more detail and But, you know, that's just kind of, I definitely think that that's up to you depending on what it is that you're trying to do. But that, again, that's a super good place to put in some keywords. If you have a specialty, obviously highlight that. So then obviously, put in whatever the best borrowed or original descriptions in these jobs as you can. So another cool thing that you can do once you've put in your job history is you can create projects. I don't know if anyone ever created a project on LinkedIn. Yeah. I'd never done it before until someone did it to me, and I was like, oh man, that's super cool. So here's an example. I was in this hackathon. Oh wait, did I do that? No, where's the one that Nikki did? I was in this hackathon, and this woman created a project, and she invited everybody who worked on it to the project. And again, that's an opportunity. See, this is a publication that I wrote. Here we go. So this is a project. You can add a project on LinkedIn, which I had no idea you can do this. And so this is a place where you can kind of highlight something special that you did. And if LinkedIn works like other social networks, and I'm assuming it does, the more connections you have, the more communication you have, the more things that you publish, the more things that you like, the more people you're connected to in some way, the more LinkedIn is gonna, churn out your profile because they think, oh, this person's gonna make other people stay on LinkedIn more so I can sell more ads. So something like a project is cool because it's gonna create that activity on your profile that's gonna kind of give you that extra 1 or 2 points or whatever it is in the LinkedIn algorithm to make you more popular. We everyone want to be popular. So you can create a project, and that's again just another opportunity for you to highlight something that you did. I did this project with some folks. And then I think that just about as much as everything else, when you're fixing to look for a job, just for, whatever extra little, juice you can squeeze out of LinkedIn's algorithm, reach out to your network and say, hey, can you endorse me? Can you write a recommendation for me? I'm not going to say that, have I ever gotten like something directly out of a LinkedIn recommendation? No, but I know that other people have looked at my LinkedIn profile, so it doesn't hurt that you have people saying cool stuff about you. It doesn't hurt that you have, whatever it is. I'm super good at whatever these little, what is it? Where are they? Those little, here. I'm super good at Spanish and editing, which seriously, who cares? But blogging, journalism, digital media. I mean, this isn't obviously super relevant to my skill set, but if I were to reach out to my network right now and say, hey, could y'all go on in there and endorse some C# for a sister? I'm pretty sure that might, again, 1, generate more activity, 2, feed LinkedIn's little algorithm thingy, 4, 3, actually, whoever's looking at my LinkedIn profile, because like I said, the first week of my job, my manager was like, I was checking out your LinkedIn, and I was like, oh, damn. I was like, I'm glad my Facebook's private. But, so you never know who's going to look at it, and just for appearance's sake. So I get...
Last month,
go ahead.
Main Street was here. When the recruiter, she's like, yeah, I walk a resume over to an engineering manager, and he or she doesn't even look at it. They just immediately go to LinkedIn and look at your profile there. Like, they're not even looking at the resume, they're going straight to LinkedIn. I'm like,
exactly.
Resume got you in the door. But.
Yeah. Which is exactly why when I said it's super important to have a good picture on there, like a clear picture of your face. Like my picture is probably not so great because that was from a few years ago and I have different hair, but I'm going to grow my hair out. So I'm going to wait until it looks super cute. But, make sure your face is clear. Make sure your name is, whatever your professional name is. And if you have a URL, because they're going to be looking you up like that, that's also good. If you have a website linked to your URL, blah, 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 we all know that. So absolutely. So I think the kind of the long and the short of it is just like all things on the internet with SEO, it's like as many times as you can link to it, whether that's having people endorse you or comment, creating projects. The other thing I didn't mention is I've noticed this anecdotally, but I don't have enough interest to really kind of measure it. The more things that you publish, if you guys do you guys use Hootsuite? You know what Hootsuite is? Hootsuite's this really cool free app that you can link up to 3 social profiles to, and you can just schedule stuff throughout the week. So you don't have to be like posting stuff to LinkedIn at like your job or whatever. So you can, the more times you post stuff to LinkedIn, that generates more profile activity as well. The more times I've posted stuff to LinkedIn, and you can, I would Google it if I were you, if you're just doing it to kind of get that, attention. I think the peak hours are like 9 a.m. Monday through Friday and like 5 p.m. I don't remember, but you can Google kind of like the peak times. And the more times you post to LinkedIn, the more activity you have on LinkedIn, the more people look at your profile, which is again, that whole like, this person is keeping more people on LinkedIn, I can sell more ads thing. So if you're really trying to get noticed and you're really trying to get out there, it's worth just setting up a quick Hootsuite account and linking your LinkedIn and just Googling a few articles and posting them throughout the week, just because. So the long and the short of it is make as many actions as possible, right, on LinkedIn. Make it look good. And also, you forgot that person's name, but you can look them up on LinkedIn. That's what's really useful for it too. So you guys have any questions? No? Good? Yes, ma'am.
Just one comment on the right-hand side, if you scroll down, there's like a toggle that says you can notify people if you make changes or not.
Oh, yeah.
So you've got it toggled yes, so when you make a change, like your network gets an email about it. Just be careful with that because if you change your title like 3 times in a row, multiple emails can be sent out.
There you go.
Or adding on to that, if you're job searching, you're currently at the job and you have all your coworkers.
Oh, yeah.
Or if you don't want to.
Yeah, there you go. Like I didn't have that problem, so I'm sorry. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So while you were looking for a job, what was your title? Did you say seeking a job or?
No, I had full stack .NET web developer.
And you can put little bar breaks in between that, and just like Sada said, pipes.
Pipes?
Sometimes I say pipes and people are like, pipes, right?
Yeah. So little sections.
Yeah, if you put them in there, because that's really, I think, one of the #1 search places.
Mm-hmm.
And like Sada said, you could put really anything in there. You could put Ruby on Rails developer, front-end developer, full stack developer, women who code evangelist. You could put, as many things as you want, and just use pipes to separate it.
Yeah, definitely. And while I'm up here, I'm just going to plug this. We're currently working on some really cool resources for y'all, which will be on you can find on our Twitter and our GitHub. We created a Women Who Code Austin GitHub. But we're going to have, for those of you looking for jobs, obviously Athena Health is hooking it up. But we also have a list of kind of our favorite recruiters or kind of like our really active recruiters. So if you want that, I can copy and paste it and email it to you if you're currently looking. But also, we're going to have that on a GitHub soon, so you can always look for that. So.
And we're hoping to have a LinkedIn workshop in the next couple of months.
Oh, I am. Okay.
And we've got companies who are hiring junior developers.
Yes. Yeah, we got a list of that coming up too. So.
Hey, have you guys mentioned, or I want to make sure I pull this from where it is. There is a Twitter hashtag going on right now called TalkPay. Have you guys heard of this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you haven't heard of this, got to go hit it up. And there's also called the TalkPay bot.
Mm-hmm.
So you can direct message the TalkPay bot and you can give it. So what people are doing are posting their salaries, their location, their years of experience, their racial, gender, blah, 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 all of that. It is incredibly powerful information to have.
Wow.
You need to go read this. You need to go post, even if you are straight out of a boot camp and you have your first job, please go post that, because I actually am very curious what you guys are making as a whole, right? But the whole point is raise the, the more information you have, the more we could all make. And you kind of need to realize what other people around you are doing. And so the cool thing about the bot is you follow it, you direct message it with your pay history or whatever, and it will post for you anonymously. So you don't have to let people know. So go look through it. Let me know if you find one.
That's great.
Cool.
It's
Awesome.
very similar to Glassdoor.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's similar to Glassdoor. It's very tech centric. And I don't know why it's different from Glassdoor. I don't actually spend that much time on Glassdoor. So this came out of a post on model view culture, which is this really kind of cool.
What's it called? Talk?
The hashtag is TalkPay.
Cool. Awesome.
I was tempted to sign for Lightning Talk, just go here and read salary sheet, because I'm all about economic data. You guys need to make as much money as you possibly can.
Well, thank you, Sarah.
Yes.
Thank you. you all wanna keep going into the lightning talks? We can take a break now if you want, or in the middle. Alright, so restrooms are out the doors to the left and right. When you come back, we'll have the last two talks. How are you doing? There's plenty of time. Finally started to slow down.
Mr. Thompson, sorry.
Okay, so it's like a web app, right? Or is it something that
Scott decided to go camping on Easter egg this Thursday. Yeah, so today was kind of the video classes and going over stuff, but it wasn't today. I'm surprised he left. Something started, so put it more than
That's awesome.
This is the and just get started. So you can pick like this is a group that start, or this the personality decides is the Watson. So it's actually different, so you can just pick that and start.
They're problem. Like that's starting. Like one of my cool I think she had her first job in LA. And she was making her first job. And then a year later, she got a job and then she was taking care of business. Like that's very exactly. So I mean, it makes sense. Like people take care of like my job hard. You know, like I like my job and like to do it, but it's also like but then by the time you get there, you just do a good job. Mine is going on. So there's a hackathon this weekend. So you guys are this weekend. So it's like and I wanted to yeah, so that's another thing. And the other thing is that you strong and know how to like in LA is one like so like they're like begging people to come see their stuff out. So if you guys could do it, I would do it. Like even if you just go and like help out with the HTML or whatever, like get some training, like you know, then you can say, hey, I worked on this project. One of you so you know, honestly, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but like a lot of us are like tired and it's like very male, so everyone says they know how to do stuff, but it's because they like tutorials, maybe like try to include code in the console, like write a simple app, and then they'll provide us now. I'm telling you, this is not, so, yeah.
Super exciting right now.
So that's what I'm saying, like, if you know a little bit, like, you must remember, you have to remember that men are always overselling themselves. No, that's what I'm saying, like, women think that, but you're not saying it, it just feels you're not playing top of your you gotta feel like so it doesn't mean that like it's wrong with that you don't see it, put that on your resume. Inspiration. If you're familiar with the process, I know what I want to do, but I can't think of it.
Like every like job and title, like
yeah, you put it on your resume. Yeah. That's perfectly acceptable. I mean, again, like, don't overdo it, but you have to think about So you just, I mean, honestly, so again, like, I don't know, you know, the NL's the version that I did was like, I would make sure and try to get, one thing I did, and there was supposed to do was try to get I wanted everyone to talk to sorts of men, like, they don't So what I was doing is give examples, I'd be like, I did, and they ask me about something, and they're like, well, I for a dasher, and the dash there, like, would, you know, the database for setting up for JSON, and manipulate down to usernames for your last name, I just talk about what I do. So talk about what you know, don't try to like, I mean, I'm with you, I can't talk about but it was like, we're taking classes and we're like, well, what I would say after that, so many of you, I read a blog post about it. I went on like 20 or 30 interviews, bro. I'm not even fucking kidding. Like, it's pathetic how many people use that. So what I'm telling you is, first of all, interview prep, so definitely, yeah. And that's basically the key to everything. Same question. What are data types of jobs? First thing is that I work in C#, which is strongly my language, and you do actually figure data types. And then like jobs are Booleans, strings, numbers, like you just take that for granted, it doesn't matter, you know? But you Google it, there's like interview prep questions for just go through when you talk they're gonna ask that's what it is. They're gonna ask you the same 20 questions, but they're looking for a very specific answer. Yeah. So they're gonna ask you the answers. They're just ask how to really your ways. They Google everything. So like while you're interviewing, that's really good. So what day are you make? Oh, they don't July. Okay, so like
there was a lot of debate with my sister, so I went to college first, so I didn't trust my sister with that like engineering. But she's like, no, you know what, you should do engineering and you can do whatever you want. Yes.
you don't have
Y'all don't mind, I'm gonna sit. Tired. I'm ready to start up. The only developer. So my talk is on should I go to a boot camp and tips from a former boot camp. So we get a lot of women here who are new to coding, who are coming from different career paths, and they want to know, like, is a boot camp for me? And so I have found over time, you know, having lunch meetings with lots of women who have questions, kind of like what are some of the same questions over and over. So I'm gonna do the top questions. So one, do I have to be good at math? No, you don't have to be good at math to be programming. You do need to like solving problems and logic. Programming, whether you're doing databases or servers or system architecture or small bug fixes, it's all about solving problems. And the problems are very varied. So it just depends on your job, exactly what kind of problems you'll be solving, but you need to have patience, which isn't easy. I would suggest being good at Google things, use Stack Overflow, and be willing to ask questions. Because whether you're going to go to a boot camp or try and get a job on your own as a junior developer, you need to be willing to put yourself out there, and that can be terrifying because you don't want to admit you have weaknesses. But how are you going to learn if you don't ask? So ask a lot and often. Another question people ask is there any other way? Because boot camps are so freaking expensive. There are other ways. Boot camps is definitely the fastest way to get into the industry if you're coming from a different career. They're usually 3 months long. They hopefully have companies they're working with who are excited and want to hire you. You know, if you're cold calling and sending out your resume, they're not really excited. They may not even look at your resume. Yeah. So boot camp definitely gives you an advantage, but not everyone can do it. So what are the other things you can do? Here in Austin, ACC has a certificate program in Java, so you can go there and get a certificate and go to hackathons. Sara talks about going to hackathons, putting your projects on LinkedIn. Those are all very good things to do, whether you go to a boot camp or not. Other things people have done is start in customer support. So WP Engine, they do WordPress and they have a huge QA team and customer support, and you can start in knowing you basically know code, and you'll start learning a little bit of code. This customer will call in and like, my WordPress site isn't working and I don't know how to put this plugin in, and you'll be like, of course I can help you, and then you need to Google, so that's why Googling is important. So Google the answer and then help them with their PHP. But so that's the place you can get in. It's an entry-level job, and so making a career shift, can be a sacrifice, but if you like problem solving and you like tech stuff, I think it pays off. Other things about whether you should go to a boot camp, the time commitment. There are some part-time and there are full-time. The full-time definitely is gonna get you in faster. So it's up to you if you want to spend, a short amount of time, sacrifice. You're gonna have to take out loans, leave your job, to get into the other career quickly. Otherwise, Austin Coding Academy here in Austin has Python classes that are part-time in the evening, so you could do it, but you're not gonna learn as much. It's gonna take you longer to build up your projects and your portfolio and get into a company. So there's another trade-off there. Another question.
I got another example.
Yes.
I've seen it done twice, so it's a fair example. Marry a developer, have him teach you in meetings.
Yes. Or date one.
You're not going to marry
At our next meetup.
I know, right?
Okay, so let's see, other questions.
Trying to get a loan for Austin Coding Academy, and UFCU told me that they don't do loans because the federal government does that, even though I was like, haven't you talked to people who take boot camps before? It's not a college credit. Yeah. But they refuse to discuss it anymore. They're just like, no, we're not giving you a bank loan. Yeah.
Well, I can offer some encouragement there. So I did Bakersfield last year, and I didn't take out a loan for it. I saved, and fortunately it all worked out. But I will say when it comes time to do tax deductions, because it is a job-seeking program, it is something that you're doing for job seeking, you can write it off.
Yes.
Check. And so you can end up with a nice tax credit because of that, nice refund. And so, not that that's going to take away from the entire cost or get back on the entire cost, but it does help.
But has anyone had success in getting loan?
There's LendLayer.
Yes.
LendLayer is a company that loans specifically.
LendLayer was started by bootcamp grads to lend money to other bootcamp grads.
Perfect. You can also do a Kickstarter, and I have seen people do that.
Some people have taken out a loan on their car or their house, so that's a little more hardcore, but you can do that. I had people in my class who put on a credit card, and my husband and I went through the class together, so we had 2 people, for the price, and we were able to borrow it from a family member, but we paid it off within a year because we got salaries that were much higher than what we had before. My salary doubled, as a developer from being an admin assistant.
The other thing that they don't often tell you, and a lot of learning programs don't disclose, is that if you come to them and you're a female, or if you need assistance for financial assistance for any reason, you can usually talk to them into giving you a discounted rate. So I know Maker Square would often do that. Initially, they had a program for women that if you agreed to tutor young girls, I think it was
like after school,
like an after school program, or do some Skype meetings and stuff, they would discount your tuition by a couple $1,000.
And General Assembly offers scholarships for women that you can apply to, and they just started.
Oh, Dev Boot Camp was all.
Yes, Dev Boot Camp.
And the other thing that they've started doing is a lot of boot camps are pairing with companies in the community. So I know that Baker Square paired with Humble, and Humble gave out a scholarship for this past cohort. So a lot of companies are trying to start doing that, where they'll either pay half or all of your tuition. And usually they require maybe an essay and an in-person interview. But when you're going up against maybe 30 candidates, the chances are pretty good, especially if you're a female and they're looking for diversity.
Yeah.
So there are ways to get in.
Do the different boot camps have different like emphasis, or are they all kind of like?
Some do. When I and Trish went to Maker Square, it was Ruby on Rails, but now it's changed because it was acquired by Hack Reactor, so they're using their Hack Reactors out of San Francisco, and they're a few years older. Their curriculum is different. It's all JavaScript based, so they're using Ember and Angular and JavaScript. So it just depends. I'm not familiar with that boot camps.
Yeah, it's probably, I'd say 60% Ruby and then 40% JavaScript.
Yeah, ours was probably something like that when we went through Maker Square. Remind me your name again. Sarah. Sarah went to Dev Boot Camp in Chicago, right? Chicago.
Yeah, and it's in San Francisco, New York as well.
Yeah.
If you guys have questions about it.
And then Sada went to Savio in LA, which is .NET, so that's Microsoft framework.
Yeah.
So it just depends, Also Coding Academy is Python. Iron Yarn, what is Iron Yarn?
Austin Academy doesn't have Python anymore.
Did they
No,
change one?
they have PHP.
PHP.
I think Iron Yarn's Ruby.
Iron Yarn is
I
Ruby.
want to see that regular review of Python.
Well, and then the other thing to keep in mind too is I think that's something that freaked me out. I was like, is it the right language and this and that? But at the end of the day, like I was telling some of the ladies, I did like a small part of the project that we did in Angular, and when I showed up at the job, the guy was like, I did a little bit Angular. I basically looked it up and put it in my resume, and they were all like having to learn Angular for this project anyways. So the good ones are gonna understand that you can learn on the job.
And I'm considering switching jobs. I've been 2 years at the startup now as their lead developer. It's in education, it's great, it's all women, we have like one guy out of 7 people. And some of the companies that I've talked to, they don't care that I only know Ruby and Rails and JavaScript because they're like, you can learn, and you've been doing this by yourself for the last 2 years, that obviously means you can learn. And I'm like, and I fixed our server when it got hacked when I was on vacation. so that's why Googling is so important. I didn't know anything about servers, but I had to learn very fast.
I've been told by people who are many more years in the industry than I that you really need like 3 or 4 languages before you start seeing the patterns.
Yeah, the patterns.
Yes.
That's why I like learning the actual second.
Yes, we have a class, we have a Python class at Rackspace. We're restarting it this month. It's beginner Python. It uses Learn Python the Hard Way, which is by,
Seems like a nice guy.
Zed Shaw. But he Skyped in to one of our classes, and the women were asking him questions for like an hour. And he said beginners should learn 4 languages. You don't need to be an expert at 4 languages, but you should at least learn 4, at least be familiar with the basics. And he said learn some easy ones like Ruby or Python and JavaScript, and then at least learn C, because everything is built on C. And even though it's horrible and nobody wants to use it, you should know the basics. And he said once you get 4 languages under your belt, then you really do get to see what is the basics of programming, how languages are all similar, they all have arrays and lists and hashes and blah, blah, blah. So that's actually why I started Python classes. I was like, I want to learn something different. I don't want to just pigeon myself, even though Ruby's a lot of fun. Who knows what the next company I'll be working at, and things are changing. We have new frameworks, Angular and Ember. Those are only like 4 or 5 years old. So you shouldn't be afraid of learning. That's another thing if you want to go to a boot camp. This
industry as a whole.
Industry as a whole, because things move quickly, things change. Your job can change overnight. So if you love learning and you get a head trip from learning, this is the right industry to be in, because you will always be learning yesterday.
I think on the learning note, I know Holly mentioned the Python class. PM is also hosting the Blue Mix class, which we're looking at scheduling for here soon. And
So follow us on Twitter, all the news is on Twitter.
So much good
the
stuff
great
on
thing
Twitter.
is that, you know, when you're considering boot camps, I know sometimes the question of, can I afford a boot camp comes up? And that's something that we've tried, I think especially, you know, here more recently, to help offer other alternatives for, is, you know, you can go to the Python class. You can, you know, you get to the end of the Python class, there's a hackathon. You actually, you know, build a Python game in the console. That's something you can.
Yeah, our Python hackathon is in June. If anyone wants to come.
There's a group called Railsbridge.
Yes,
Railsbridge.
We try that,
Saturdays.
she's very nice.
Saturdays, I think they do it, so it's where
Yes, the same.
And there's Pi Ladies, which is
Yeah.
another meetup, and they do just Python, so if you wanna go and hack on Python.
And for you to be able to go and take something, you know, whether it's Python, you get experience with Blue Mix, you know, that's all stuff, you know, again, what companies wanna see on your LinkedIn, you know, when you're going and applying is, they wanna know that you're interested in learning. And, you know, sometimes people look at it and they say, well, what do I need to learn? Everything. You know, focus on what you're interested in. If you're interested in building applications, learn like, or not applications, if you're interested in building phone apps, you know, focus on those languages. If you're interested in building web apps, focus on those languages.
And if you're not sure where to start, you don't have to jump right into a boot camp. You know, take some free classes on
Code Academy, Code School.
Code Academy. And then if you can't afford to go to boot camp, you can't take off work, you know, you have other circumstances, take classes on Coursera, get the certificates. If you paid for them, you'll have certificates. You can put that on your LinkedIn. That looks really good, especially to larger companies. They're like, oh, they're certified. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And they post directly to LinkedIn.
They do. So Coursera is great. Lynda.com with a Y. That's also a good place to go and take classes. And there's a lot of free classes. MIT has open online classes you can take. So if you want to get into even more specialized things, you know, algorithms and fancy math and whatever, you know, you can find all kinds of stuff online. So there's a lot of resources out there. Are there any other questions?
What was your background? Because you said you work in admin before?
I was an admin assistant. My background is varied. So let's see, where do I begin? So I worked as a secretary at a church, and I needed a website when I was 18. And so we used something like WordPress, but WordPress didn't exist then. And I was like, this is really cool, and I can do HTML and CSS, and I'm so smart. And everyone had MySpace back then.
Yeah.
Everyone blinged up their MySpace. So that's how I fell in love with coding. I didn't code when I was younger. I wasn't into science, you know. I liked playing video games, but I wasn't a gamer. But I liked problem solving. I liked logic and stuff. And then in school, I studied theology, but I was like, I can't get a job with theology. So I took all the JavaScript classes and HTML classes, and I was usually the only person in the class. And the professor would just hand me the book and say, go read this and turn in your assignments to me. And so I came to him and I was like, do you guys have like a web internship or anything? And he's like, no, but we need a new website. And I said, great. So they hired me as a student worker to manage their 4 websites. And then I got to learn databases and built them databases and stuff. And so I had to learn before there was Google, and that was hard. So I had stacks of books. And I was done through the books to find the answers I needed to do the stuff I wanted. And it was a lot of fun, but I didn't feel like my skills were that deep because I was mostly self-taught. And I think as females, we tend to see ourselves as less than, you know, we have that imposter syndrome. So I didn't feel like I could get a job after that as a web designer, even though I really wanted to, because I was like, well, I've only had a couple classes in school, and even though, yeah, I'm managing 4 websites and I do customer support for over 400 online students, you know, I really don't have that good of a resume. So I decided to go do something else because I didn't like working at the school anymore, and then 2008 hit, and they were laying off people left and right but not me because I was too smart and I had to do 4 other people's jobs, and I was like, this sucks. So I went and I was a physical trainer I did that for about a year, and then I did antiques on eBay, and then I worked at a restaurant as a manager. That was the worst job. And then finally I found my dream job. I was working at a nonprofit for kids with disabilities, and I was doing summer camps, and I was an admin assistant to one of the vice presidents, and I was like, I'm gonna stay here forever. But then my body rejected me because I got allergies and I had a mental breakdown. And so I lost my job, and then I moved to Austin with my husband because he was going to get his MBA, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life, and I'm really depressed because I lost my dream job, and I'm not even sure if I can ever work again, but thankfully, with the help of nutritionists, I've gotten healthy. But I found Maker Square because my husband wanted to go to it, and I was like, well, if you're gonna go to it, I want to go to it because I liked coding. And we went into Maker Square, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. I cried every day because I was like, my brain hurts, I can't learn all this stuff. Everyone is smarter than me. I'm starving all the time because I'm on a special diet from my nutritionist. We have to bike 2 miles in August weather because we're not paying for parking downtown, and it was horrible. And then I got my job. I met my boss at a meetup here at Capital Factory, Austin Mills. This tiny little lady, and she does education, and she needed a developer, and I said, I need a job. She didn't even know what to ask me the questions. She's just like, can you code? And I was like, yes. And then I was hired, and then I was like, what the hell am I doing? I know nothing. And it was terrifying for the first 9 months, and until I fixed our server when it got hacked and I was on vacation in Finland. And then I said, I can do anything. Since then, it's been a lot easier. It's still hard every day. There's things I don't know when I have to Google a lot, but I'm very glad I went to the boot camp, and I'm glad to be in this industry. It is now my dream job.
One of the things that really intimidates me is the hardware. Like, you know, like you're learning the coding and you're learning these little things, but my mind is like, what's happening? Like how do you hook up?
Go to Coursera.
And,
That's a different part.
you know, command
We don't
lines.
have to do that stuff if you don't want to. You don't ever have to get there, but if you want to, that's usually operations.
So now command line, you do.
Command line you need to learn, but operations, there's actually a online class that's open source to how to become a network system administrator, and it's in our document. It's going to go up on GitHub soon. We're making our repository of resources so that all of you can find this wonderful stuff that we've found over the last few years. I'm trying to remember, it's from a school. I can't remember which college it is, but if you search network system administration and like online course, it's just open source. It's like a book almost, and it'll tell you like what are servers and how do you set up a server
And how it all connects.
and how it connects.
With your program.
Yeah.
And such.
And if you don't want to read, you can go on YouTube and look for a video on what is a server, how does a server work, and there's lots of fun stuff that will say this is a server, and this is how you set it up.
And you don't necessarily have to anymore. I mean, that's the deal of our, like, Blooming's, that part of it. So your database, your operating system, it's all there for you. So there's a whole team that's like pre-done that, so you don't have to do that.
Yeah, I don't actually handle our server anymore. I went to a DevOps conference last year, developer operations. I told my boss, I know nothing about servers, and I have no freaking clue what to do once we start getting people on the site. Like, what if the server falls over? I don't know how to do that. So she sent me to a one-day conference here in Austin, and I talked to all the guys, and they're like, why are you hosting your own server? You're only one person. You should be on Heroku.
Yeah.
So now we're on Heroku, 2 weeks after we got hacked. So yeah, Heroku is really easy. It can handle, you know, code that's in Ruby or PHP and Java and other things, and it's like a scalable server system. And so, you know, it's easy to set up. I say it's easy. You probably wouldn't find it easy, but maybe in 6 months you could find it easy. So our
I would say it's expensive, but it's cheaper than hiring an
Yes.
assistant, right?
It is expensive. They don't have the free version anymore. They used to let you have like a free toy to play with. So another thing you can do is you can build stuff on WordPress. You know, you don't have to become a brilliant coder to make websites. And there's a lot of people out there who want websites and they're fine with a WordPress site. And so we've had people who become freelancers just making WordPress sites. You know, if you like doing design and stuff and you just want to know a little bit of coding, so if something breaks or you want an extra plugin, you know, you need to install it, you know, then you can do that. But there are people making a living just doing WordPress sites.
If somebody is gonna go back and do coding though, I would make one suggestion, and that is to actually have as part of your curriculum, putting data in a database, whether it's a NoSQL or an SQL database, because of the data integrity and the security part of that I think that's you don't have to set up the servers, but I do think that's something that's
If you want to learn that, you can do a Rails tutorial. It's also by Zed Shaw, who does the Learn Python the Hard Way. And with the Rails tutorial, you'll make a web app and you'll use Postgres, which is a free SQL database. And it's really easy to use with Rails. Questions? I think we're ready for Trish then. Tell us all about debugging and troubleshooting.
Ideally, we set up. Okay. I'm typically up here with a Mac, so you give me this, you know, you're talking about hardware, and I get a little lost sometimes. Okay, so we can pick up one of these guys. Can I hack that?
Go find one of the Coursera courses on computer architecture, which you don't need to know at all for doing most of your jobs, but it's really fun and interesting.
I thought it was always in the back of my mind.
Yeah, like how does this work in your covers? And that gets you down to like machine language and understanding just like the hardware. It's like
Yeah, I know which one it is. Classes and all. Mine is like, there's so many access. I feel like
College?
That's if you're awesome.
I just hooked that one in because I don't have that.
Okay.
I assumed.
I don't know if the USB is gonna work.
Maybe it won't work. I can just talk.
Do you mind?
I can just talk. Yeah. No, it's okay. I can just talk.
Don't have a Mac. It's not nice.
There's a sequel, like, you can self-teach yourself, your assignments done every week, but you have a person you can call and use those are also salaries.
Were they actually helpful though? Because I was in accounting before this, and I took an accounting class, and
Okay. So I'm not able to connect, so I'm not able to really physically show you guys anything. But that's okay. I think talking through it. What's that?
I said, will you put your slides up for us?
Yeah.
You can tweet them.
Okay, I'll do that. So I wanted to talk about debugging tonight, and I know, again, like some of the other terms that have come up, that does not sound sexy whatsoever. I write in .NET and Backbone. And the one thing that I realized when I started working with the company that I'm at now is that in development, you know, oftentimes we think, I'm gonna be a developer, I'm gonna learn how to code. And what most people don't realize is that coding is probably only 40% of the equation, if that. The other part of it is the actual problem solving. It's debugging. And so a lot of times I think, when I started coding, I was working in Ruby on Rails, did some JavaScript, occasionally used a debugger, very rarely, and occasionally used the console in Chrome, very rarely, and really tried to stay away from those tools. I think my approach was always, well, I'm going to go in and write the code, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to go look at my code and figure out why it doesn't work. Well, when you work in a large application, if you go work for a company, it's a huge application. Let's say you go work for Twitter. You can't just go and look at the code because you have hundreds, if not thousands, of pages of code. It doesn't work that way. So you have to get really familiar and friendly with debugging tools. And the one thing about resources like Code Academy is they're great. You go in, you learn how to code. And then you ask yourself afterwards, how do I actually apply this? I just did a 9-hour track on Ruby on Rails. Great. I have no clue what to do with it. And a lot of times people fear that next step where they say, okay, I've gone in and I've done 9 hours of this. Now I have to go in and actually create an application. Well, what if I break things? You are going to break things. Going into the console, setting up your development environment. I can't tell you how many times I've received the message that, in my command prompt, are you sure you want to do this? Sometimes there's a message in there, and I can't remember the exact message right now, but it says, it's your computer coming forward, and it's like, I'm too scared to move forward. I'm aborting this mission. I will not do this unless you tell me absolutely to do it. And it says that in similar terms. And I can't remember it, but I've seen it maybe 3 times. And whenever it asks me that, I'm like, oh, I just did something really bad. And that's a big part in development. There was a quote that I read on Twitter once, and it said, there is courage in being an engineer and running towards a problem rather than away from it. And it's so true, because you go into the code every day, and you go into it like you're going into battle. You go into it with your sword and your armor, and you're hoping that you're gonna win. You probably won't, but hopefully you'll do a little bit of damage. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about the importance of debugging, because a lot of people overlook that stuff. And when they start learning how to code, they're really afraid to break things, and they're afraid to figure out why things are broken. It's almost like you don't want to look at the errors, because then you feel like your computer is about to explode. But if you don't look at the errors, you won't know where to go next. If you're working in Rails and Rails applications, the great thing about Rails is that oftentimes, whenever you go to boot up the server and actually look at something locally, it'll tell you what the issue is.
Oh yeah.
And you have to start to learn to look at those issues and, okay, something's broken, let me go look at my code. Let me look at the error. What is it telling me? If I don't know what it's telling me, if it's saying something really weird, that this path doesn't connect to this path, go and Google it. Oftentimes, if you receive an error, somebody else has received that exact same error. I was receiving an error back in an error log that was being recorded in our database earlier today, and it was value cannot be null, parameter string to escape. But I have no idea what this means. This makes no logical sense to me. I have no clue what this means. And it took me probably a good 3 hours to debug. First, I had to figure out what error I was actually getting, and then I had to figure out where it was at. So just to kind of get a gauge on things, who in here is fairly new to coding? Okay. Anybody intermediate? Okay, and then who's senior?
You.
Okay. And are some people haven't touched anything? Maybe? No? Okay, good. So for some people, some of us work in development environments. If anybody doesn't know what a development environment is, it's got a graphical user interface, it's got a compiler, it's got a debugger. They're wonderful. They're a godsend if you come from something like Ruby. So I work in C#, so I work in Visual Studio, which is wonderful. You can set breakpoints in Visual Studio. You can set breakpoints with exceptions in Visual Studio. And a lot of people underestimate that stuff because, again, as you're going through code, you may know, where it's happening, or you may have an idea. You don't know the exact point. So what I was hoping to show you guys was obviously just setting breakpoints, but also some other tools. I use Fiddler. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Fiddler. Fiddler is wonderful. You can capture get and post requests so you can see what's happening with API calls. I had talked about API calls last week. I think if you're building any application of your own, if you're working for a company, at some point you're gonna have to deal with APIs. At some point you're gonna have to deal with some really messed up JSON coming in. And you're probably gonna be sending out some really messed up JSON too. And Fiddler allows you to look at those requests. It works hand in hand with .NET, which is great. And I was hoping to show that too, just to show how to really inspect what you're sending out and what you're getting back. Outside of that, I think one thing that I've learned is what really separates, I think, junior developers from senior developers is their debugging ability. I think at the end of the day, coding is coding. You go in, you learn how to do it, you improve on that, your logic gets better. But if you can't find the error, you can't solve the problem. So for me, again, there have been times where I've spent 8 hours trying to find the error. And I can fix it in 10 minutes. I can rewrite the logic in 10 minutes, but I can't do it if I don't know where it's at. Yeah. And so really the takeaway, besides the tools that I can't show you, is, don't be afraid to break things, because if you don't go in there and try to do something, you're not gonna know where the issue's at. And then I just wanted to ask everybody what languages they worked in and what their preferred debugging tools were for those languages, so that I can save myself some headaches when I go to work in those languages.
I like Firebug.
Firebug's great.
Firebug, it's my favorite tool. It's like was it Firefox little add-on? But the visual interface of everything is, I think, easier to read than Chrome. I don't know, I like it better.
Okay.
If you're writing tests and debugging the front end stuff, Selenium is really nice.
Never heard of Selenium.
So it's an extension you can put on Firefox, and I think they also might have their own tool as well, but the extension is free, and so you can actually record your actions on the UI, and then put in your statements of this should be here, and if I enter in my name and it's supposed to appear on the next page, then on the next page my name should be there. And then if you're a really good developer, you're going to have classes on that div, so you should say the div that says first name should have my first name. Okay. But if not, there's other ways you can grab where the text is supposed to be. But it's a nice way for testing front end browser stuff.
Okay, cool. I haven't heard of that. I like Firebug a lot. Fiddler has been really great for me with API calls.
If you develop in Rails,
to use Firebug,
Capybara WebKit actually uses the Selenium WebDriver, so they're using Selenium behind the scenes.
Cool.
PyCharm for Python and Django and Flask.
What is it?
PyCharm.
PyCharm?
Awesome.
Okay. I haven't gotten into Python yet, but I know that I'm gonna end up doing
something through Women Code at some point, so.
And if you end up using any other Python web frameworks like Django or Flask or anything, it's like $100.
Okay.
And if you do the professional version, it basically has a whole bunch of plugins that allow you to set up a lightweight web server and everything, so you don't have to do anything yourself.
Okay. Does Python have a good IDE? I know that Ruby.
So PyCharm,
Doesn't?
yeah,
Ruby has
PyCharm
They have
is.
Ruby mine,
Yeah.
but I don't feel like anybody really uses it.
I've heard people use Spider for Python. I just use PyCharm for everything. So
Okay.
it's the IDE, this is debugger. It's
Okay,
comprehensive.
that's good to know.
I use Sublime as my text editor. Sublime is free, so if anybody's learning to code and you want to have a text editor you can type in, Sublime has a lot of free packages you can install. And so I have some JavaScript debugging packages and stuff that I use to, like, when I save the file, it runs all of my code. It says, you're missing a semicolon, you're missing a this and a
That's
that.
nice.
And I'm like, dang it. Also, for JavaScript, if you're, building stuff for, the browser and you want to test stuff, I use console.log, and I use that also kind of in Rails. I log things to the console
Yeah.
to see what is my data doing, what's going on in there. I want to understand, like, what's behind the scenes.
Yeah, what's being
What's
returned
the nuts
for
and
a
bolts.
certain value.
And Chrome, has a great developer console that you can use, so you can see as you're clicking on things, you can log things, and it'll show you, like, what's going on in the JavaScript. I'm like, if I'm sending a get or a put to the server, I want to see what's being returned, and so I use the console in Google a lot.
Yeah.
In Chrome.
So I do a lot of debugging of multi-system communication.
Okay.
Right, so I work in system management, so we manage our software manages other systems.
Yeah.
So, and then your software, once you start scaling up, may talk to a database, and there's maybe a load balancer in front of it, maybe the customer's a proxy, there's all sorts of things. So I have a handful of Unix commands that I really like for troubleshooting those sort of scenarios. If you're trying to figure out if or why a web server name is or isn't resolving, like you're trying to connect to an API someplace else, it's a command called NSLOOKUP. So you can just say, hey, is this what I think it is? Is it actually resolving? Ping, if you're not familiar with ping, go learn ping. It basically says, hey, do I have a response from you? Can I actually get to you or not? Telnet, so you probably used like SSH to get to machines before. Telnet is SSH without the security layer on it.
Okay.
But the cool thing about Telnet is you can actually Telnet to a very particular port. So if this API is supposed to be listening on this port, on this server, you can say Telnet to this server on this port, and you can just say, can I get through? Because sometimes there's a firewall there,
Yeah.
and you don't know it, right? There's a tool called Wireshark on Windows. I have no clue whether it runs on Macs or not.
Okay.
And
It's good to know the difference between Windows and Mac tools.
yeah,
because,
most of what I said is all Unix
it's-
based, but
yeah.
most of it you can find on Windows too.
Okay.
So if it's Unix based, you can run it on Macs too.
Okay.
Because that's all BSD covers. Wireshark on Windows, and I'm not sure there's a Unix equivalent that I can't remember right at the moment, but we'll give you a network trace. So you're trying to connect from here to there. You run it here, and it shows you everything that comes through because you think you're going there, but it turns out there's something's capturing your packets and sending it over there instead. And sometimes you can't prove that.
Yeah.
You need to prove it to be able to go to your network admin and say, fix this
Fix
now.
Yeah.
And proving it is the way.
I think that's a good quote. That's a good point. We can end on that, but it's true. If you can't prove it, you can't fix it.
Yes.
If you have no proof of what's happening or what's going on,
And you end up in these circles just arguing.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're at time. Everybody is free to hang out, chat with each other. I know we're gonna send out a couple of announcements.
Yeah, we have
in
the
the following
Python
weeks. Yeah.
hackathon on June 6th.
We'll be starting the Blue Mix meetup as well. That's right now dates are to be determined, but we'll be starting that.
And the Python hackathon is open to beginners and developers. We're gonna try and organize the teams so that it's, a good mixture. And there's going to be some prizes. It's just one day at Rackspace. Friday night will be a happy hour mixer, and then all day Saturday we'll have, wonderful meals catered and stuff. And then it's going to be games built in the terminal, like the old kind of games, like you're walking in the forest.
The Oregon Trail.
So basic,
Did you get the measles?
text-based games, and it's for mostly, the people who went through the Python class so that they can work on like a final project or whatever, but it is open to anyone. So if you want to come and even just observe, you can come, if you've never been to hackathon, you're like, I don't know what this is, I just want to come watch. You're more than welcome to drop in and watch.
Real quick, so follow us on Twitter because we're sending out all kinds of sweet tidbits on there. There's a hackathon this weekend. It's only $10, but we got a free code. If anybody wants to go to a free hackathon this weekend, let us know. I don't know. Angel Hack Austin.
Oh, it is, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be all weekend, unfortunately, and I found out just today I already have plans. But I would go. There's also gonna be one in June 5th through 7th.
Is that the St. Edward's one?
That's ATX Hack for Change.
Yes.
So that one is not the Python one, if you guys are, put that on your mental radar.
And
There's a
they're
bunch of
forming
free stuff.
groups.
Yeah.
So, you can find some group
ATX
members
Hack
in
for
here.
Change is sponsored by St. Ed,
Same.
and it's for local nonprofits and people who are changing the world. So they will form teams. It can be all kinds of different
Yeah,
languages.
and I already registered and you can do marketing, you don't have to be a
Yeah, you don't
coder.
have to be a coder.
Yeah. Is it free or?
I registered for free if you're gonna be a participant, I think it's free. Also, take all this free swag. And anybody who wants the list of the recruiters, I already have an email, we're gonna give you an email, I'll send it to you.
Sorry, someone has information on the Learn Python the Hard Way class y'all are doing?
It's
It's on Meetup, and it'll be the third Wednesday. So, is it 20? Yeah. They're really nice. It starts at 6:30. Their offices are Central Austin, so if you're south, that's a little hard. I get there in 15 minutes from downtown, so I just go straight up 35. It's 35 in Runberg.
Where's it gonna be?
35 in Runberg at Backspace. They cater dinner, pizza or sandwiches or whatever, and we have a really fun time. It's for people who know nothing about coding, or if you want to learn a different language, you're more than welcome to come. We have fun. And I'm gonna be taking over like the intermediate people who went through this class, and we'll also be there the same night, but we're just gonna be doing like coding exercises. Cause I didn't find a book that I liked. They're either like really, really smart or beginner. So I guess we gotta make an intermediate book.
This could be great.
Well, thank you all for coming.